Welcome back to In the Trenches with Will Ortner, a Couch GM podcast. I'm your host, Will Ortner, and we are getting into the teams that had a bad NFL offseason. First, I'm starting out in New York with the Jets. Your solution last year to a bad O-line is to go out and sign an old Tyron Smith and an old Morgan Moses. So what you've done is said, hey, our young guys weren't doing well. Let's go out and get some old guys to kind of fix a solution here, and then we're going to hope that Olu Fashanu, he's able to come in and he'll be the young buck on the outside. Our older guys will stay healthy, and that'll be what we use to keep Rodgers at 40 years old, coming off an Achilles tear, upright and healthy. I just don't buy into this New York team. I feel like they get propped up because they are in New York, because New York wants their teams to be good. So instantly, oh, this team is better than it was. Defensively, we're not going to look at the fact that they took a regression backwards. We're not going to look at the fact that this team is just basing, hey, we're going to be good. Look at all these old stars that we have. There's a reason that they're old. There's a reason that Dallas moved on from Tyron Smith. They're not what they once were. You think that at 40 years old, Aaron Rodgers, a guy who at one point was legitimately considering running for vice president of the United States with a third-party candidate, is all in 100% on your football team? Get out of here. I don't like what the Jets did. I think they're just setting themselves up for failure again. You might have a better September, but I don't love what your October is going to be, let alone your November and December. I don't like what they're doing in New York. Cleveland is my second team. I don't think Jerry Jeudy is very good. I'm much in the camp of Steve Smith. He's a jag, just a guy. He should have been flourishing with Russell Wilson. Yes, Russell Wilson took a step back. He wasn't what he was in Seattle, but guess what? He was an all right quarterback the second year. He was competent. Jerry Jeudy didn't do anything. Now you're going to stick him in Cleveland. Yeah, you got Amari Cooper there, so he can be the second guy. He can be the Robin. The problem is the guy who's throwing them the dang football. Deshaun Watson hasn't thrown for over 1,200 yards as a Brown. He hasn't thrown for over 3,000 yards since 2020. There was a point where we were considering Deshaun Watson the second or third best quarterback in the NFL, and he's been atrocious since 2020. They're in a bad spot. They can't move on from Deshaun Watson. His contract is astronomical. We're going to look at it as one of the worst contracts, if not the worst contracts in all of football. It's fully guaranteed. I don't think that he's the guy. I don't like what Cleveland's done. It's a tough division. You know Pittsburgh's always going to be right around 500. The Ravens got stronger. They got better. I like what the Ravens are doing. And then Cincinnati's going to be better than they were last year just because Joe Burrow is going to be healthy. Cleveland did not help themselves offensively. I don't think that they're ready for prime time, and I think you're going to see a clear step back. The last team that I had on my bad NFL offseason was the Cowboys. You had lots of holes to fill, and all you really did was go out and sign running backs. Tyler Guyton, he's a reach. He's a project player. Maybe he will turn into something big time, but there's still a lot of meat left on that bone for him to achieve his true potential. You needed a center. The best one in the country was there when you were picking in the draft in Jackson Powers Johnson. He went out and won all the awards last year for Oregon and helped create one of the best offensive line units in all of college football, and you let him go. You didn't take him. Defensively, I feel like you're taking a step back, right? Yes, you get Diggs back, and so your secondary is going to be better. But what are you going to do now with Micah Parsons? You lost your defensive coordinator. How is that going to affect that defense? And then offensively, Dak, he still feels like he's good enough to keep you in a lot of games, but is he going to win you anything? No, you probably can't move on from him. His contract is what it is. Plus, are you sure you're going to get something better? But when I look at this team, it's like you had holes to fill, specifically on the offensive line. The offensive line continues to get older, and you went out and took a project? That doesn't feel like the best move. My honorable mention is the Arizona Cardinals. You have a ton of holes to fill. Your defense struggled. Your offense struggled. I felt like in free agency, you didn't go out and get any cheap young talent that I was really impressed by. And then in the draft, I get it. Like, you have a spot to take a generational wide receiver. You can go mix him with your quarterback and Murray, who's still relatively young. Now he's got a number one wide receiver. You slowly start to build. You start to develop that way. I just felt like that was a spot when you have that many holes. Trade back. You already know that the rebuild's coming. Well, let's acquire assets. Let's get assets on assets on assets. And we'll just throw our assets at the problem. If we have a bunch of draft picks, we can draft a bunch of guys. If half of them hit into serviceable NFL players, you're happy, as opposed to now you're putting all your money in this Marvin Harrison Jr. basket, which by all accounts, like, he's going to be awesome and he should be. It just feels like you could have went with a quantity situation there and sped up your rebuild, where now your rebuild still feels as long. But hey, what do I know? Maybe Murray will come in, light the world on fire. Marvin Harrison Jr. will score 1,000 touchdowns and have 20,000 yards next year, and you'll make the playoffs. But we all know that's not going to happen, right? It's the Arizona Cardinals. You got a long rebuild going. You got to keep pushing. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. This is part 2 of our 3-part series on the NFL offseason. The good NFL offseason is already out. We're still going to take a look, and we're working on part 3 right now. That is the could be good, could be ugly fence-sitting edition of the NFL offseason. Remember, if you like this video, give it a like, give us a subscription so that we can keep making videos like this. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in.
Oh, look at this run. What a run. Marshawn Lynch still on his feet. Has blockers now. He's dancing his way for the touchdown.